Well, greetings one and all, and welcome back to another video here with your host Andrew. Today you join me for a review on the Pilot Custom 823. Now, you might be wondering, Andrew, change of scenery? Well, unfortunately our actual conservatory is upside down at the moment. The windowsill needs to be redone as some of the plastic is coming off, and some of the walls need to be redecorated as well. So there's no space to actually record in there. So you join me today in the lounge in a new location, but hopefully it won't deter from the rest of the video, as it's only just really the introduction these days, which I have a tendency to actually use the room for. Anyway, without further ado, what we're going to be doing, as I said, is a review on the Pilot Custom 823. We're going to be using this ink from Tashiya today, which is the Zumi, which is a nice sort of charcoal grey with some sheen in there if you lay it down in vast quantities. And we're going to be just doing some more Japanese themed flowers. Just a closer study today, and hopefully won't quite take too long, just because I haven't got a lot of time to edit today. So wish me luck, and I shall see you in a sec. Okay, so going forwards, I'm rebranding my reviews to Pen Perspectives. Why, some may ask? Well, writing is very personal, and whilst I do try to give some level of observations, ultimately it's up to you, my dear friends, to make up your own mind. Of course, if there are glaring omissions on the pen, I will of course mention this. I'm also considering engaging customer service departments on social media with questions under a pseudonym, just to test out to see how good their customer service is. Okay, so I hope you enjoy the new format. And now thanks go to Colt Pens for the loan of this pen, and as always my thoughts and perspectives are my own. These pens are loaned for review purposes, and honest critique will be provided in exchange. Okay, so now let's have a look at the background to the 823. In the year 2000, the 823 was born, and since then it has become one of Pilot's biggest success stories. Thanks to the vacuum-filled barrel, this pen really sets itself apart from the rest of Pilot's lineup, and one could argue with any pen within this price range. So in essence, what we have is a very business-like pen that wouldn't look out of place in a board meeting, and I feel this is also reflected in the rest of Pilot's lineup with the 74 and so on and so forth. So now let's dive a little bit deeper into the pen. So what we're going to have a look at first off is the unboxing experience of the pen. This box is big and certainly goes a long way to impressing on you that you own a luxury writing instrument. One may argue that it's a bit too big, but still, on closer inspection, you'll notice that upon opening, there nested by the pen is a bottle of ink, which I have to say is always very welcomed, even if it's just plain blue or black. This silk bedding is very stylish, and it does offer you a wonderful cushion for your pen, especially if your pen has had a busy day of writing, pages and pages. I mean, who wouldn't want silk sheets to rest their head on at the end of the day? And I feel that this is something which a pen would enjoy as well, if it had a consciousness. Also included in the box is your other standard items such as care and warranty information. Okay, so moving on from the box, now let's have a look at the practicality of this pen. This pen ticks a huge number of boxes. Clip, tick. Fits into a shirt pocket, tick. Fits into trousers pocket, tick. Essentially, this thing will actually clip into most fabrics, of course within reason. Detailing of the clip is superb, and I like the fact that we have a little ball on the end. Looks very stylish and very retro, and harks back to some of Pilot's earliest pens. But the real winner of the show is the vacuum filling system. If you've never experienced a filling mechanism before and you are on the fence, get off that fence and go to your favourite online retailer. Golf pens. Sorry about that. Frog in the throat. Anyway, joking aside, no matter where you buy it, you won't be disappointed in watching the ink getting swallowed up. There is something extremely satisfying about listening to the click at the end and just watching that ink just being sucked up into the barrel.
I feel that if you are a user of this pen already, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. In terms of comforts, I feel that most people will enjoy this pen. The grip section is wide enough for smaller hands and plenty big enough for larger hands. Uncapping the pen is pretty quick and gives you access to the nib in a jiffy. For the keen eye out there, you will notice just about that there is an inner cap, which massively helps stop ink from drying out. I've now left this pen for several days without actual use, and it writes just perfectly fine. So this pen is very practical, with quick access to the nib, an interesting filling mechanism, and it offers a decent size in the hand. Oh, and you can post the cap as well, should you wish. Okay, now let's have a look at the design aspects of this pen. Okay, so this design will divide opinions. You see, for all its practicality, cigar-shaped pens are not everyone's cup of ink. Some people just prefer flat tops, so it would be wonderful to see this vacuum filling system available for those style of pens as well. But what I do especially love about this pen is the smoke finish with gold highlights. It's very simple and it's very elegant. The trim is done especially well, with nice little touches like the infilling on the company branding on the center ring. So if demonstrated pens aren't to your taste, I have to question whether or not I can recommend this. However, you may see that in darker environments that you can barely see the ink, so this pen, although it is classified as a demonstrator, could potentially appeal. Now, taking a look at the nib, you'll notice that the imprinting is a little bit plain. For some, this probably won't bother you, but from a design perspective, it would be nice to see them actually modernise it a bit. Sort of like what Sailor's done. Whether you enjoy that or not is a discussion for another review. Now, we can't not look at Pilot and then compare it to Namiki, which comes with a gorgeous two-tone nib, and I would like to see this maybe deployed on most of Pilot's pens. I feel this is something which would just look absolutely fantastic. Overall, the design of the pen is very stylish, and like I said at the beginning of this review, it would suit quite a number of environments as a signing pen, working in business meetings. I feel this is a pen which would be taken very serious, and for any pen aficionados out there which were noticing the signing, you owning an 823 might give you some credibility. So now let's have a look at the writing and drawing experience. So I'm going to be saying a few things which are a little bit controversial now, but please do bear with me. Writing with this pen is decent, but will it set the world on fire? From my perspective, no. That's partly because I prefer my gold nibs softer than what this currently is, and whilst there is a bit of softness, I was hoping for more. Still, for everyday writing, it is extremely good. However, I do ask myself this question: does it offer more than a Platinum Preppy? Not really. I mean, the nib writes and it writes well, but then so does the Platinum Preppy. Now, I do realise that there are people out there which will be scoffing and blaspheming at me through their screens, fingers prepped to take to their keyboards and do battle, but please, I implore you to hear me out. Whilst this fine nib is excellent and it does the job, I do feel that the FA nib, from my perspective, would give me a better writing experience, as it offers a little bit more characteristic, and I generally prefer gold nibs to be really bouncy. This isn't. So, would I recommend it? Yes, which might sound a little bit contradictory. You see, I have to recommend the whole experience of the pen, not just the writing. There is a suitable choice of nibs in the UK, that being fine, medium and broad, but if you were to venture out to Japan, you could get yourself a Waverley and a Falcon nib, which I'd argue would give a much more interesting experience. Drawing on the reverse of this pen is smooth and offers an excellent line variation. I would probably have to guess maybe like an extra fine. For longer writing and drawing sessions, I've really enjoyed this. The line is consistent and it's really up to Pilot's very high standards. There were no issues with hard starts or any of that rubbish, and as such I have really enjoyed it. Interestingly though, I do own a size 18K 10 Namiki nib, and I'd say it's a hair finer and just a little bit smoother. Now I thought I would share a few words about customer care. Okay, so I thought I would include about customer care, partly because I feel it's underrepresented, certainly when people talk about reviews, and it's something which I feel is also equally as important to the pen itself. So Pilot's responses in the past have always been shrouded in corporate lingo, and usually if you have a question about the company, you'll get a mute response. That is quite understandable, but they do listen. I asked last year about why the 823 wasn't available in the UK, to which I got a default response of, "Thank you for your interest, but we can't talk about future products that may or may not come." Well, words to that effect at least. Still a few months later, and lo and behold, the 823 came out. And I'm not saying that it was because of my letter, but I feel that there was a lot of voice within the community, and Pilot listened. Pilot is also very quick to respond on social media. I've contacted them on several occasions and they've always been very polite and pleasant. But you will get a default response initially. Still, I have to say it is better than Kaweco, who has actually responded now, but it took nearly about 56, 70 hours or so for them to respond. So they were a little bit slow, but they did respond eventually. Okay, so yes, I feel that you will be well looked after if you have an issue with your pen with Pilot. Okay, now let's give you some final thoughts. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so I know I might have been a little bit dismissive in the writing and drawing section, but those are my honest thoughts. So now, also please do remember, as always, these are my personal observations and they don't reflect the actual views of anyone in particular or the community at large. The Pilot Custom 823 is a fine pen, and I'd argue it's certainly the king within its price segment, well, in Japan at least. So there are a few points of consideration. Firstly, the design is very understated, and it would be nice to see some variation in colour. Smoke brown and clear are your only options here. Ever so recently, however, Pilot did release the SE lineup, and I can't help but wonder what 823 would look like in SE marbling. It's a very, very handsome material. Secondly, whilst the writing experience is decent, and for those that don't mind the nib being on the slightly stiffer side, you will have a great time, and there's no complaints. Lastly, there are other good pens in the European market that retail for about the same price. You have got the Pelikan M800, for example, which will give you an easier time for cleaning, more nib choices, and a superior range of colour and finishes. However, what you do get is a vacuum-filled fountain pen, which is a joy to use and an extremely precise and wonderful writing experience. Overall, I have had a lovely time with this pen, and it's certainly opened my eyes to different styles of pens and nibs. Would I buy one? Yes, but it would have to be an FA nib or Waverley nib to meet my personal tastes. Okay, so just a few points of consideration on going forwards. I think that Pilot's lineup is certainly more interesting these days, and as a company, and as mentioned before, the SE lineup has gone a long way to actually give Pilot a jolt of fresh air. Bar the capless range, Pilot generally errs on the side of caution when it comes to design, so one hopes that going forwards, Pilot does introduce more colour variants within their lineups, and certainly it would be lovely to see the 823 getting some of that representation as well. Well, that really leaves it for today's video. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed the content. I realise I might have been a little bit controversial down the line with my thoughts on the writing experience, but as always, I do like to try and be honest. So, what I'd like to do now is invite you just to sit back, watch and relax as I finish off this piece of artwork. As always, please do stay safe, and I shall see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye for now.